Simple Decorating Tips presents Applying a Transfer with FrameandFrills.com. One of the transfers that we have in the shop called Postal Birds was my inspiration for this piece. First I measured the drop front to see what part of the transfer I wanted to use on it. I laid out my transfer. It's a 3-part transfer. I laid it out according to the pattern and really wanted to use that pretty blue bird that's down on the bottom right of it. So I measured to see how much of the postal mark would fit on my desktop. Then I started cutting carefully. In this video, I'm going to share with you 3 basic tips for applying transfers. Here's the first one. As soon as I unpack a transfer, I start taping the edges of the transfer to the backing. When I'm cutting it, like with these birds, I tape as I am cutting because I have lost a couple of transfer parts because it's come apart and has stuck to something I didn't want it to. I use the Easy Release painter's tape, and it's not painting any part of the actual transfer, it's taping the top plastic part and the bottom wax paper. The transfer is in the middle, stuck to the clear plastic part. All that does is hold the back protective layer so that it doesn't curl up and wind up sticking to something you don't want it to. So I continue to cut out the transfer, and then I dry fit it onto the desk front to see how it fits. The bottom words make it extend down a little bit too much. I want to lose those instead of the top branch. So I cut that off, dry fit again, and I like how it fits. So now it's time to apply the transfer. I peel off part of the back of the wax paper, but not the entire thing because this is too big and cumbersome to try to hold it away from actually touching the desktop. So when I determine exactly where I want it, you can see that there's lines on the clear plastic to help you line it up straight. And here is tip number 2, which is when I'm applying the transfer, I'm careful to go from the edge across, holding it up where it's not actually applied to prevent getting air bubbles underneath and trapped in the center of the transfer. That's especially of a concern with the wider pieces like the bird. The third tip I have when applying transfers is to hold the edge of the transfer, like with a big one like this, so that it doesn't curl back on itself. So see how I'm holding the left edge the whole time until it's all the way over? I've had it where if I don't hold it carefully, it actually wants to curl back up and stick on the plastic, and then you can't get it back off. Now that the transfer is in place, it's time to smooth it out and really get it to adhere to the painted surface. I use both this transfer tool and the wooden stick transfer tool that comes in the kit. This transfer tool I have available in the shop for sale or online. I find that sometimes it works a little bit better because it is wider, and if I wind up touching the edge of the paint where there's no plastic protective part, if it goes over, if the transfer is right next to the edge of the plastic and I wind up rubbing it on the paint, it doesn't mark the paint, whereas I have found with the wooden transfer tool that comes in the transfer kit, sometimes it does kind of mark that painted surface just a little bit. So now when I think that the transfer is stuck onto the painted surface, I start peeling back the plastic. And after I peel some off, you can see the little edges are just slightly raised. So I go over it with my finger to make sure that those are stuck down on the painted surface. As soon as I feel any resistance whatsoever, I stop and I rub the face of the plastic again to get that transfer to release and stick onto the painted surface. This can be a little bit of a putsy process. You have to be patient and very carefully peel back. If it, so you can kind of see that leaf sticks a little bit. If it sticks a little bit, put it back down, rub it again, and be patient. And if it does wind up pulling and actually ripping the transfer, you can sometimes put it right back down and get it to stick. However, I have had it where the transfer was still attached to the plastic and I didn't realize it. I pulled it away too quickly. It stretched the transfer and sort of distorted it. So when I tried to stick it back down, it didn't look exactly right. The letters and fine details of a transfer are especially putsy. You just really need to really carefully go over every little section, every which way, and pull off the plastic super slow. I sometimes like to actually put my hand underneath so that I can really carefully feel if any part of the transfer is coming back up with the plastic. Sometimes you can't see it on the plastic as well as you can just feel it with your fingertips. So I'm just really slowly going around. As I feel any resistance whatsoever, I put it back down, rub the face of the transfer again. It could just be a tiny little edge of the letter, but if it sticks, it's going to distort the lettering. Again, I just can't stress how much patience is part of this. You really can't rush it. You just have to be slow and careful, and as you feel any part giving resistance, stop, go back, rub it till it releases. After the transfer is totally on the piece of furniture and the plastic is peeled off, I go back with my finger and rub it across any edges that are lifted, making sure that everything is down, there's no air bubbles. And then I go back with the heel of my hand and burnish it on, just double making sure that it has made really good contact with the piece of furniture. These transfers need to have a water-based top coat. I like our Fusion Tough Coat, which is what I put over top of this one in the matte finish. Here is the Tall Secretary, all finished. As you can see, I did some transfers on the inside as well. All of these products are available at freemanfrills.com. You can shop online or in the store.